What's up guys, welcome back to another video. Boozer here, thanks for stopping by. Today's video I want to go over the Heroes Path and the Titan event that just recently dropped a couple hours ago. I want to break down specifically the Heroes Path since that has a shorter window of time that we need to complete it. There's a lot of things going on in the next couple days, so let's jump right into it. Alright guys, so here's the Titan event and the Path of Clover event, basically Heroes Path. You can see here it's going to be a 4-day Heroes Path. We know that it's going to be shards and soulstones only, so you can get that done basically right away. In terms of the Titan event, we now know that it's going to be the 5-star Arman's Soul as the main prize. They listed already that there will be a total of 1750 festive points, and we need 1500 for the Arman's Soul. So I'm not going to be talking too much about the Titan event right now because we are only at the beginning of it, and there's going to be more to come. So there's definitely going to be more videos to examine the future events. But I want to say a quick comment about the Arman's Soul. So for Arman's, we know that he is a accuracy focused debuffer. Control champion, so getting the 5-star Arman's Soul is immensely important relative to the other souls that are available. So 1, 2, 3, 4. Basically 1, 2, 3, 4, it doesn't really matter for Arman's. The 5th one is the most important one, and I only say this for people that are really interested in PvP. For regular PvE content, the soul is not really that important. Maybe you go for the 1-star just to get some extra HP and make sure he survives a little bit. The 2 stars for attack, it's not important. The 3 stars for defense, it's not really needed. And then the crit damage on 4 is not needed at all. So 5 is the main prize. So effectively, it's an all or nothing for a lot of people. But if you're just going to dog the Titan event, picking up some of the lower ones for cheap is a good idea. But I do recommend, if you have the resources, prepare for the 5-star. As soon as we get more information, I will be doing more videos on the upcoming Titan events. I would expect at least 2 summoning events, at least 2 big training events. And based on what happened to me with Zinagir and Fatalis, expect the Deck of Fate to come to have Titan events in the Deck of Fate. They did specify that there will be a Deck of Fate. So expect Titan points to be in there, and I would expect the the Deck of Fate to be a guaranteed champion with Titan points. And it's going to be hard to skip, right? It's going to be hard to skip. So make sure, if you guys are going for the 5-star, I would recommend getting as many of the early Titan points as possible. You don't want to be blindsided at the end with the Deck of Fate, because the Deck of Fate with Titan points is extremely difficult to complete. Because it's another all or nothing mentality event, and there's no guarantee if you cannot go basically all the way with it. But anyways, we'll talk about that in the future. I just wanted to touch upon the importance of the 5-star relative to the 1 and 4-star Arman's Souls. Alright, so main focus here is the Path of Clover event. So we now know that it is the legendary Padraig champion that is up for grabs here. Not too surprising. We basically were estimating that it's either going to be a guaranteed champion or the Arman's Soul in the Heroes Path. In this case, Plarium went for the Arman's Soul as a Titan event, which makes sense because Arman's Soul is very, very valuable. So for this Heroes Path, we get the Saint Patty's Day champion. So I did cover this really quickly in my last video. He's a Sylvan Watcher. He's a spirit champion. He's, St. Patty's Day kind of themed-ish. Not really, I guess, but just because he's green. He's a really good ally attack champion. I think he's mostly PvE based. I did give him a hard time last time, but I was thinking about it through my lens as through my own account. But I will say this, he's actually a very solid champion. Don't get me wrong. I didn't want to say that he was a bad champion. He has an ally, he has a team, full team. That's very important. Full team ally attack. And he does place a very specific buff on your damage dealers. So if you're running with defense damage dealers or attack based damage dealers, they will always get the increased damage buff. And then of course he has the team wide ally attack. So I did grill him a little bit for lack of crit damage, for example. But because he has this buff and he also supports your support support champions as well, he's actually, it kind of makes up for the crit damage buff in a way. And also this cleanse is very special. It's a nice cleanse with increased speed and turn meter boost on a 3 turns. Very, very good. So this champion is actually very good. If you need him for Fire Knight, he's going to be awesome. If you need him for, this move is basically tailor-made for Fire Knight. The problem here is that you don't really want to get hit in Fire Knight, so restoring your max HP and continuous heal doesn't really make too much of a difference in Fire Knight. But of course, if you're progressing, he's going to be insane. And of course, this cleanse move is actually insane as well. And then his dungeon aura, very, very good for Fire Knight as well. So I don't want to give him too much of a hard time, but I do feel he's mostly a PvE champion. All right, so I just want to get that out of the way first if you guys are still interested in him. All right, guys, so on to the path here. So the path, like I said, it's going to be soul stones and shards. That is no surprise. Luckily, Plarium gave us that info. As for the point allocation, it's the exact same as the Blizzard Winter Heroes Path, which is the closest comparable to the current Heroes Path. Blizzard's Heroes Path was just during the fusion as well, and included the fusion pieces as well. So this is identical in structure and point structure. So we get 4,500 for the big sacred shard, 7,500 for the eternal soul stone. So no changes there. No changes to the void shard, power shard, or any of these at all. It's kind of interesting when you compare the relative value of ancient shard to sacred shard. It's only 15 ancient shards per 1 sacred shard. That's actually a better conversion rate than a summon rush, for example, because a summon rush, ancient shard to sacred shard conversion is 25 ancient shards to 1 sacred shard. So with that being said, it's kind of interesting to see the conversion rate here. So yeah, it's interesting. It's something to consider, but we'll get into that in a little bit here. All right, so taking a quick look at the Heroes Path here, we got Titan points in this event. That is a little bit surprising, but not too surprising. So we have Titan points in this event. We have fragments in this event. We have his avatar, soul, and the champion. And then we got some mega Kraken stuff at the bottom here. You know, you got everything in this Heroes Path. I can tell already there's going to be a lot of points allocated to this. So let's break down which path we need to do, or you need to do, for whatever you want from this path. So let's jump right into that. All right, so let's first start off with the Titan points. Let's say you have completed your Arman's fusion. You have no interest in this champion, soul, or the fragments. Let's see what is the cheapest path just for strictly the Titan points. There are 200 Titan points up for grabs here. Recall that I said there would be a maximum of 1,750 Titan points up for grabs in the whole event. We need 1,500 for the full Arman's soul. So let's see what is the cheapest cost for just the fragments of the the Titan event points. Okay, so I'm going to do the red marker here, and then we're going to go down. We'll pick up the 20 here, and then we'll pick up the 80 here. Stop. Let's see here. So I'm going to draw this in the red, and then we have to go down the other side, and then we will pick up the 80 down here. So that's going to be the shortest path for you if you're just looking for the Titan points. All right, so that gives you a total of 22,500 points, which is exactly the equivalent cost of 5 sacred shards. So 5 sacred shards will get you 200 Titan points if you have no other interest in this event. That might be the cheapest way out, actually. And that might be the cheapest way forward if you don't need the fragments, if you don't need the champion. So you get away with 5 sacred shards and you're done with the event. All right, so moving on, let's go for the easiest way to get the frags. So for me personally, the way I planned out this entire fusion was basically to skip the first summon rush, skip the champion chase, get the fragments in the Hero's Path with the intention of completing the Hero's Path, whatever it may be. So for me, I have to complete minimum these frags to get my Arman's fusion complete. Now, it was a gamble to skip the first summon rush and the champion chase because we didn't know the value of what the frags would be worth in the hero's path here. So this is a very important breakdown because it kind of summarizes our entire fusion plan from the very beginning and will show us whether it was a good gamble or a bad gamble. So let's jump into the breakdown for that. So I'm going to use the green marker here for the frags only, so the fastest towards the frags. All right, so in green, this is the cheapest way to get the 50 frags that you need if you did commit to skipping the summon rush and the champion chase, for example, from the fusion. So 49,500 points is what you need. Keep in mind that along this 49,500, you also pick up the 200 Titan points. This might be the way for a lot of people, actually, if they did gamble on the hero's path. So this is about the equivalent of 11 sacred shards. So if you would recall, the first summon rush cost 3150 for the fragments, which is 6 sacred shards. And then the champion chase was 3,000 points. Although you got 3 epics out of that, so you needed roughly about 2,000 points for the champion chase. So strictly talking sacreds only, 2,000 points probably would not have been reached with 5 sacreds, which is the difference between 49, which is the difference between the total sacreds required here, which is 11 minus 6, which is 5. 5 sacreds for the champion chase would probably not have done it. So you probably needed a mix of other shards. So if you're talking strictly sacred commitment, 11 sacred shards for 2 fragments here is actually not a bad trade-off to pass on the early summon rush and the champion chase. So overall, the gamble to basically focus on the hero's path, I think worked out pretty well, especially when you factor in that you're picking up the Titan points here. Something that you might have actually went for anyways. So if you went for the summon rush early, went for the champion chase, and then you jumped into this hero's path, and you're like, hey, I'm done with my Arman's fusion, but hey, I now need to do this, these Titan points because I want to pick up Arman's 5-star soul. I don't feel comfortable skipping 200 points right now. You would have to jump into this as well with more shards. So in that regard, having the Titan points packed into this 11 sacred package with the frags is actually a really good deal. So I think it was a gamble. It was a gamble, but I think the gamble definitely paid off here. For 11 sacreds, you get a nice package. You get the 50 fragments to finish off your Arman's fusion. You get the 200 Titan points. And I think most people will call it quits here if they went with that strategy in the beginning. The similar strategy to what I went for. Hopefully it worked out for you guys. I know it was a bit of a gamble, but I think it worked out here quite well. All right, guys, so follow with me the teal path here. So teal, you're going to be starting here at the top. This is the cheapest way towards the champion Padraig. You're going to go down the right-hand side here. You're going to stop at this key, and then you're going to come down the middle, pick up the 3-day XP, and then come straight down into Padraig. So you're not picking up too much here. You're picking up only 100 Titan points. Then this is just a byproduct of going for the champion in the cheapest way. But this is the bare minimum to acquire this champion. This puts the total cost of this champion at 21 sacred shards. Now, you could argue that 21 sacred shards also includes 100 Titan points. And it also includes a champion, which you kind of expect to cost about 20 sacred shards nowadays. Obviously, there's inflation and all that. Fatalis was 25 sacred shards worth of shards in the last hero's last deck of fate event. He's a void legendary, so 25 sacred shards kind of makes sense. And most of the other hero's path deck of fate guaranteed type champions have been costing about 20 sacred shards worth. So you got 21 sacred shards here for Padraig, 100 Titan points. You got legendary book. Is it worth it? I think it's okay value, especially since Padraig is actually a good champion, of course, and it depends on how where your progress is on your account. If you know, he can be really good for your account if you have, let's say, if you don't have Mikage, if you don't have Cardio, these are like super premium ally attack champions for Fire Knight especially, then he's going to be top tier, top value for your account. he can also do some work in Hydra as well. Continuous heals, cleansing, speed up, very good for Hydra as well. Overall, I think it's fair. It's a fair price. I think most people will not be able to pay it. And of course, you have to consider what is happening in the Arman's fusion. So if you value the Arman's fusion, and you're low on, if you value the Arman's Titan event, and you value his soul highly, you do have to consider that there will be multiple summoning events for Arman's soul. And like I said earlier, Arman's soul will be basically an all or nothing type of event, because his 1 to 4 soul is not impactful. His 5-star soul is very impactful because of the accuracy boost. So that's something to keep in mind here, guys. If you want to go for Padraig versus the Arman's Titan event, the cost can be great and it can bite you in the butt later on. All right, guys, so follow with me the yellow path, which I've labeled the Kraken Path, which is also a path that I am likely to head down myself, which is getting the 50 fragments. So you have to head down both the left and the right hand side, and then getting the champion Padraig. So this is likely the path that I was expecting to go down when I first started the Arman's fusion and we started planning for the hero's path, knowing that it was here, knowing that it was for summons and soul stones. And this works out to roughly 27 sacreds worth for this entire path here. This allowed us to skip the summon rush, the champion chase, pick up the 200 Titan points here, and get the champion for 27 sacreds. If you consider that the champion is worth approximately 20 sacred shards, we're only paying 7 for the additional fragments and the Titan events. So as you can clearly see, the savings here is quite massive relative to doing the summon rush and the champion chase. But of course, it was a big gamble. And also, it's a big resource dump all at once. But we've been saving for a long time, preparing for this event, knowing that if we were to go for the big prize, which is the guarantee here, we would get good value from our from our shards. And honestly, we actually are getting quite good value from our shards, because we, like I said, skipped the first summon rush, which was worth 6 sacreds. We skipped the champion chase, which we still had to commit approximately 2,000 chase points towards. I know it's not that hard sometimes, but it's still good value. And we get a champion out of it for approximately 20 sacreds. I mean, you could water that down to maybe 18 sacreds. We also have some flexibility here with summoning soul stones, which is also an opportunity cost. We didn't commit to the last soul stone event where it was double X chance to pull soul stones. So overall, I think considering what we gave up, considering that what we have to give now for what we're getting, Titan points, fragments, champion, 27 sacreds, I think it's a good trade-off overall. All right, and I've added one more category here. I'm going to call it Kraken Plus, because I think nobody is going to go down this path. This is when the value really drops off. So basically, you're getting the champion plus the 5-star soul stone. We're going to go down, follow down to here, down to this purple key. And then on the left-hand side, we have to go through to the other key as well. The problem here is that if you completed the Arman's fusion without requiring any of the additional fragments here, you have to pay 4,000 for 25 fragments. It's definitely not worth it. So you're giving up 4,000 points here. If you somehow coordinated yourself to only require 25, then sure, it's worth it. And then after we get the two keys here, then you'll be able to open up both sides of this. One side to get the champion, one side to get the soul. I would not advise you to get the soul only without getting a champion. Obviously, getting the champion is better than getting just the soul. But if you're going to go for both, this is the path for you. It's 179,000 points, which is the equivalent of 40 sacreds, 40 or so sacreds for the champion, the soul, the Titan points, the whole shebang here. You're missing out some of the mythical books at the bottom and the avatar, but honestly, this stuff is just insane. Like, we're talking 40 sacred shards already. I don't think anybody's going to go for both. I don't think he benefits that much from the 5-star soul. Obviously, there's massive value to 5-star souls, but I don't think he benefits that much from it because firstly, I think souls are mostly for arena based champions. He doesn't require accuracy in his kit. Like it's not a big, yeah, you just, so why do you go for a 5-star soul? Yeah, so I don't think there's very low value to his soul here. I think this is not an advisable path to go for. It's very expensive, but honestly, the price is justified if you value the soul highly for him. A 5-star soul for a good champion is definitely worth a good chunk of resources. Just consider what the Arman's Titan event will cost. It's probably going to cost a good chunk, and it's definitely worth it because he's a good champion. But in this case, Padraig, I think you can definitely skip the 5-star soul here. All right, so what does that all look like to me? Now that we know the totals of what we are looking for, what does that look like for myself personally? What is my own plan? So personally, I currently am sitting on about 25 to 30 sacreds on both my accounts. And 25 sacreds here is going to give us 112,000 points, which basically fills out our requirement to get the 50 fragments. 50 fragments, Titan points, and we're working our way towards the champion, which is 122,000 points. So with 25 sacreds, I'm basically already locked in to getting everything. So I have no problems to complete this event. Saving my resources definitely worked out for me. I think sacreds are still going to be the best bang for the buck here. So if you consider using ancients only and considering this a guaranteed ancient champion, let's say you put 300 ancient shards in, you're only getting 90,000 points, which is not enough to acquire the champion by itself. So this champion is definitely not a viable ancient guarantee comparison. So for example, if you're doing 150 ancients, you're only going to get 45,000 points, which is only half of this champion. 150 ancient for a guaranteed champion is about right. I know the price has been creeping up, but even if we're going for 300 and we still can't get the champion, is not a good comparison for ancient shards. So definitely don't use your ancient shards to pick up this champion. Yeah, and like I said, the sacred shard will be the most bang for your buck in terms of points. Good thing here is that there is a mortal soulstone component to the hero's path. So if you did save some of your mortal soulstones, not spent them during the 2x event that was live during the beginning of the Arman's fusion, you might have some extra points here to throw into this event. So for myself personally, I believe I have about 60 mortal stones and about 8 middle ones, which gives us a total of 18,000 points roughly, which saves us about 4 sacred shards. So instead of me participating in the soulstone event earlier with the 2x chance, we saved 4 sacred shards by using the soulstones here in this event. And I think that's actually a good conversion because you don't really get too much value in events from soulstones. So and you obviously get lots of shard events, so saving shards is actually worth quite a bit. So having the soulstones here alleviates some of the sacred pressure, allows me to save some of my sacreds, which is of course a good thing. This event is not very flexible. Obviously it's just shards and soulstones, so having that extra component here and taking advantage of it, I think is worthwhile, saving those 4 extra sacreds. I want to mention here that primals actually have some pretty good value here relative to void shards. The problem is primals are kind of rare, kind of valuable, and you definitely want to pull them during 2x events. So I would try to advise against pulling primals, but the overall value compared to void shards here is quite good. So it might be worth pulling in a pinch if you're very desperate. Keep in mind, guys, that this event is shards only, so it's not going to help you if you have fragments to summon or anything like that. So make sure you guys don't make that mistake. So for me, the true cost of this event is going to be about 23 sacreds and then a handful of mortal soulstones and then 8 immortal soulstones. And that'll allow me to pick up the 50 fragments and the champion. That's pretty expensive, to be honest. And it is something that I will have to consider whether I want this champion or not, or whether I want to just complete the fragments, which is 49.5. If I do 49.5, that might actually just cost me a very reasonable 7 sacreds and soulstones. I mean, that's pretty reasonable. It's going to be something that I need to consider because the champion is quite expensive. I really want to save perhaps the sacreds for the upcoming summon rush, which is later this week actually, and it's going to be part of the Titan event for the Arman Soul. So it's definitely for me to consider. I haven't made my decision up yet, but this is the breakdown for myself. Lastly, guys, I want to talk about when you want to pull for this event. So let's jump right into that. So for me, we have news of the next 3 days worth of progressive events. So as you can see here, we have the boost going on right now. So on the first day, there is the progressive event going on right now is for Fural, the Barkhorn, Borog, the Elder, Owella, and Grazier Irongut. Looks like all shards are active. Okay, let's start off with Fural, the Barkhorn. He's a Sylvan Watcher, is the Christmas tree here, or he was released around Christmas. So A1, 100% chance to decrease speed on one target. On the boss, ignores some resistance, so lowers your accuracy requirement. A2, decrease accuracy and block buffs. And then it's A3, increased resistance, perfect veil. Passive, it's basically going to increase resistance, accuracy, and increase damage dealt. So Fural actually is incredibly good for Hydra. He brings all these different team utility and also Veil, so you can basically cover like Torment. This increase damage dealt is actually really good. So to me, he is an excellent Hydra candidate. Great base stats, defense-based legendary support champion. So he's definitely worth it. He's on day 1. Coming up next, we have Beauregard, the Elder. He's a dwarf. HP base. I believe he places increased defense on the lowest HP ally. His A2 removes 1 random debuff from all allies, so it's kind of like a soft cleanse. Then places shield equal to 20% of this champion's max HP. It's a little bit weak, honestly, for a 3-turn. I mean, it should basically be a full cleanse and then play shield, which is reasonable. And then his A3, increased resistance, increase speed on your whole team for 4-turn cooldown. Good buffs, but 4-turn cooldown, not really insane or anything. Passive, ally receive 10% less damage from champion whose resistance is lower than theirs or equal to. So it can be decent, 10% less damage reduction. He does have increased resistance as well. 4-turn cooldown is not going to be super good here. If it was 3-turn, it'd be a lot better. And this should be a full cleanse. So to me, he's an average type support champion. He doesn't really bring much else. Good base stats at least. But compared to the Christmas tree, I think he's not going to be the one that you really want. After that, we have Owella. Owella was a past fusion before. She was kind of like underlooked, underappreciated a little bit. She's definitely found her own kind of niche, and she's basically found some uses. A1 has a 100% chance placing decreased speed, which is really good. Big heal on the A2, and an increased duration of all buffs. A3, big turn meter fill with the increased resistance. And then her passive places continuous heal. She's a good champion. She has a big heal. She was a past fusion, so a lot of people might already have her, so her value might not be that high. But personally, the Christmas tree brings similar types of team utility, team survivability, but also brings some pretty good damage as well. So definitely Christmas tree over Owella for myself personally. After that, we're looking at Grazier. Grazier is coming from Void Shards. It's going to be hard to pull Void Shards here since they're pretty limited value. Grazier is one of the top carries in the game. I love this guy. He has AoEs here with the shield, AoEs here with the heal, AoEs here with the provoke, and then of course increase res, increase defense. He has an unkillable when he dies, and then he has a healing effect for your whole team when he gets hit. He's an incredible carry champion. But he's coming from Void Shards, so I don't really count him here because I'm not going to be pulling Void Shards. But if you are, he's definitely worth it for a progressive 15x. I don't know if he's going to be super sought after. He's great in Hydra as well. But yeah, that's day 1. All right, so day 2, we're looking at Kira the Watcher. Kira the Watcher is part of the Mikage fusion, so it might be worth something for you guys to chase. 15x, it's not going to be the best odds, of course, to get any desired champion, but it's a better odds than normal. She's a average type champion. A1 decreased attack, A2 AoE decreased accuracy, and then she brings this ally protection, increase defense on a 3-turn. Very solid for like clan boss and stuff like that, but she's not like an insane champion or anything. But she's going to be coming up tomorrow, so if you guys are interested, try to get her. Of course, Mikage fusion part, of course. Up next, we have the Ogren tribe, Blizzard. Blizzard was the Christmas fusion. I love this guy. I think he looks great, and I think his kit is very solid. He's kind of like good for everything. He has a triple hit for Fire Knight Hard 10, so he can decrease the turn meter with the freeze. He has kind of a soft cleanse, a conditional cleanse with the increased defense, ally protection on a 3-turn, very solid. And then he has a AoE crowd control freeze, and then decreased turn meter with the A3. His passive makes him actually super viable for other things as well. So he has a revive on death when he dies, and then he's immune. He has like a passive that removes the freeze. He's kind of immune to freeze basically. But the big thing with him is that if you have like a big soul for him, you can basically use him to solo Sand Devil 25 with food. That's kind of the big thing that Blizzard is good for. He's probably good for cheesing out some bosses, especially if you put him with like a 5-star, 6-star Brimstone, because he has this revive on death. It is on a cooldown for a 3-turn cooldown, but there's ways to cycle back to it. So for example, you could probably solo some bosses with Blizzard. But yeah, he's past fusion, so you guys might have him already, so he's not going to be super highly sought after. The next champion up for grabs is Snicktrax. He's decent. He's not anything to be writing home about. A1 decreased attack, conditional effect under leech debuff has a 100% chance. Okay, so it goes from 50% to 100% if it has leech. His A2 is an AoE decreased speed, which is good for Hydra, and then also places a shield on all allies equals to this champion's max HP. Good survivability. His A3 places an ally protection on a 3-turn, and then reflect damage. Of course, you're going to want ally protection plus increased defense instead of this reflect damage. So it's not as good as like Kira's or Blizzard's ally protection, but still pretty decent. He has a decreased speed, AoE, and a decreased attack as well. His passive kind of sucks. Reflect damage not super relevant, but good base stats as well. If you guys want him, he's going to be on day 2. Coming up next, we have Tyrant Lixamore. Tyrant Lixamore, bit of an old school champion here. He can solo Ice Golem, he can solo Ice Golem or Spider normal. If you gear him out properly, not going to be the fastest, but he's an option. He brings, his big thing is the ally protection, increased defense on a 3-turn, and then he protects your team if they're under HP burn, which is okay. And then he places the HP burn AoE, and then in heal, he has a heal on his A1 for himself. He's okay. He's kind of dated now. There's other AoE HP burn champions, and there's other increased defense ally protection champions as well. From the Void Shards, we're looking at, what do we got here? We got Big Mama here, Ursuga. Used to be pretty relevant for like some arena content. Probably still is. She has this passive that decreases damage all allies receive from crits by 30%. This champion receives it instead. It's good team protector, but she doesn't really offer too much more. Ally protection strengthened on a 3-turn, and then some decreased attack, decreased crit damage, decreased crit speed, decreased defense, conditional. These are good, right? These neutralize your opponents, and then these protect your team. A1 block active skills, some more neutralizing. Good base stats. She's actually pretty fast, so she's okay as a void champion. I don't know if you're going to be pulling void shards just for her strictly. And then Crisk, here's the big void temptation here. It's going to be big Crisk, big bad boy Crisk here, one of the big best carries in the game. A1 AoE decreased speed, awesome. 3-turn ally protection, continuous heals, and then 3-turn AoE provoke, and then buffs on your team and himself, and then his starting shield, and then his additional neutralizing your opponents with decreased defense, decreased attack. Just a great champion, insane base defense. Worth pulling for, maybe. if you guys are interested in Hydra. He's insane in Hydra. His value is going to be there for sure. And then moving on to day 3, we got Ugir, the Worm Eater. Recent fusion. Where is he? Is he an orc? He's an orc, right? Sorry, this is... Sorry. Ogren. There he is. Ugir. He actually is okay. I went for the fusion himself. I 60'd him. I geared him up for some Centranos. He's actually okay, right? He has an AoE. His big thing is his strip. He has a strip and then weaken, and then increase accuracy, and then he has the conditional increase defense, increase attack based on the type of champion that it's buffing. So it's actually pretty solid, both on 3 turns. And his passive basically triggers his AoE whenever a champion is revived. I mean, it's solid. It's solid. He's a solid champion. He didn't get much love when he came out, but he's decent. But since he's a fusion champion, most people might not want him or have him already. After that, we got Lady Kimmy from the Shadowkin. Great. Decrease accuracy, decrease speed. Increase accuracy, increase speed. Bunch of turn meter stuff. Bunch of turn meter stuff on the A1. Big speed aura for Doom Tower. She's an insane champion in terms of speed control. She has big base speed. And then, of course, the increased accuracy is very good for champions like bombs or lockouts or any kind of CC champion. She's good in arena. She's good everywhere. Good for Hydra. Definitely worth considering. She was a guarantee. Was she a guarantee? I think she was a guarantee at some point, maybe a long time ago. Coming up next, we have King Gal Cobar. King Gal Cobar, this guy. Sylvan Watcher, magic, support champion. A1 places shield on an ally with lowest HP. Value of shield is equal to the ally's max HP. It's kind of like meh. Is A2, attack all enemies. 100% chance to remove all buffs. So it's a strip champion. Places poisons for 2 turns on each enemy for every buff removed. That's kind of cool. And then places block buffs on all the enemies. So 100% chance on a 3-turn cooldown. Sounds okay. Maybe viable against Hydra too with the block buffs. But this kind of requires you to strip somebody first. So it's not super reliable. And then his A3 is a cleanse, placing continuous heal, and also a shield on everybody on a 3-turn cooldown. Sounds pretty good. I mean, the cleanse is really good. Continuous heal, shield, more protection for your team. His passives, whenever an enemy under poison attacks an ally under shield, instantly activates. So poison detonation, very, very conditional poison activation. Decent base stats. Kind of a weird champion, a weird kit overall, but he seems to be okay. An average champion. He has a 3-turn cleanse. Good cleanse, shield, and continuous heal. So decent champion. And then lastly, for the non-void champions, we have... what do we got here? We have a Sethalia. Sethalia. Very old champion. Got crept up quite a bit. Removes all debuffs. Her big move here is a 2-turn cooldown. Removes all debuffs from one ally. Then puts block debuffs on them. And heals the ally by 75% of their max AP. So big single target. Cleanse, heal, and then buff. And then all heals all your team 20% of their max HP and fill turn meter if the target is fully healed. 2-turn cooldown, quite decent move. A3, 3-turn cooldown, 100% chance when fully booked of removing all buffs, so full strip, then decreases turn meter and fills turn meter of all allies by 10%, then decreases turn meter of all enemies by 20% and fills turn meter of allies by 20% if 5 or more buffs are removed. That's pretty hard condition to fill, but it's a 10% one way, 10% the other way, and then it's a full strip on a 3-turn cooldown. Pretty good, but... I mean, you know, she's a legendary. Maybe expect a little bit more, but overall, okay champion. I don't know if you're going to be pulling, you know, with the hopes of getting her, but if you get her, then it's kind of okay. And for the void options here, we have Volcanin. He was a 110 void guarantee back in the day, not too long ago. He has interesting man, his kit is ridiculous, but basically if he has to kill an ally, and then he gets charged up, and then he has a really big move here. that ignores 50% of the enemy's target defense. It also ignores a bunch of other stuff. It's a really strong nuke, but it requires some setup. Good speed, obviously, great aura. He's an interesting champion. I don't particularly, think he's super viable too many places. I've seen some Hydra stuff on him, seen him do okay there. Seen him use in live arena. He seems to be doing okay there. But he was a void guarantee and I passed on him, so that kind of maybe shows my thoughts on him. But definitely, if you guys are interested, he's part of the third day's void legendaries. And lastly, from the Sacred Order, we have Constantine, the Dayborn. He actually hits pretty hard. His A1 really smacks. This move is A3, a single target, really smacks. And his A3 is okay. It's conditional with the damage boost. So the base damage is not that high, but if you have the conditional applied, he's going to ignore some defense and it's going to do quite a bit of damage. His passive is good. He can basically block revive on some of these really tough factions. The problem is his base attack is low, so that's why his multipliers are pretty high. I think if he had an extra 100 attack with those multipliers, he might actually be very viable as a counter for some of these factions. Decent base speed, low HP, low base attack. I don't know if he's worth going for, but he's okay as a damage dealer overall. So personally, the prize here from these 3 days worth of progressive events is this Barkhorn Christmas tree from the Sylvan Watchers, and that's active on day 1 today. So I will be pulling my shards for this champion with the progressive event going on. Keep in mind that even with progressive rates, you're not going to be looking at a very favorable chance of pulling a legendary that you want. Rates are not boosted. It's only 6% chance to pull from a sacred shard, so the chance of you pulling a legendary is already extremely low. So keep this in mind when you guys are pulling shards. Also, make sure you guys are maybe pulling shards just for the hero's path with this specific goal in mind, and not just pulling shards for the sake of pulling shards. There's going to be tons of summon events coming up, and I would advise to save where you guys can save. But anyways, guys, it's a bit of a long video, but it's a pretty complete breakdown of what's going on for the hero's path and everything coming up in the next couple days. Let me know in the comments below what you guys think of everything. If you guys have any tips yourself, happy to hear it. Happy to discuss it in the comments below. And yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Appreciate your time as always, and I'll see you guys in the next one.